Hello! So today I'm going to be talking about Childish Literature by Alejandro Zambra. Childish Literature is a collection of short stories, essays and poems. It's both fiction and non-fiction, although my impression from reading it is it's mainly non-fiction. The novel is exploring the singular experience of parenthood, how fatherhood has reshaped the author's relationship to aging, intimacy and time. When I first started reading this novel, I thought it was going to be somewhat of a spiritual companion piece to the novel Soldier Sailor. That novel is all about a young mother from her child being from a baby to an infant, and the sort of like the real intimacy and connection of that. It's very poetic and we're very in her head. And I thought, oh, maybe this novel, especially the first couple of chapters, is going to be kind of like, yeah, sort of spiritual companion to that book. However, I was completely wrong, completely and utterly wrong. This book is nothing like that book whatsoever, and I wouldn't even say it's a spiritual companion because this book pushes a lot further than that. Childish Literature almost works as an eclectic guide for novice parents. And oh boy, is it eclectic. First off, we get these sort of dispatches from the author's first year as a father. So if you can see here, we get kind of like day 101 and then it jumps to sort of day 120, and they're these short little sort of inserts about what it's like to be a father in the first year of your child being born. These moments are small and intimate and almost like little snapshots of what it's like to be in that moment. The joy, the horror, all of it. We also get an essay called Football Sadness, in which the author talks about his relationship to football, how his father taught him to love football and how he is trying to teach his son to love football, and that connection through football and the love of football, and how that's almost a very intrinsic part of fatherhood to him and his family. We get an essay all about the pains of screen time and what is appropriate screen time for a child. And we even get this sort of short psychedelic story about the author or the character the author's created, I couldn't be sure in that moment, taking these magic mushrooms in order to kind of heal these headaches. And through that process, he's almost learning to crawl again at the same time his son is. It's all... yeah, but it was hilarious, absolutely hilarious. The novel is offering insights into how children and parents challenge each other and offer insights into this sort of new world that opens up once you become a parent. This book is both simultaneously really, really silly and quite light-hearted, and in some moments, utterly profound. So, what did I like and what didn't I like? What I liked. I absolutely loved how eclectic this book is. It just meant that I could not predict what sort of like short story or essay was going to come next. What sort of glimpse or look at like parenthood, being a father or childhood was I going to dive into. The book is written in a way that reminded me of how I think now about my childhood. When I think back to my childhood, or when I think about my relationship with my dad, it comes in these very small, idiosyncratic sort of bite-sized chunks. It's just little flashes and memories here and there that I have to try really hard to flesh out. But overall, it's just a collection of these sort of like random little moments, and moments that aren't sometimes very profound. They're very small, but the moment you start examining them, they become something much bigger. There are so many sections I really, really loved in this book, but two do stand out. The first one is the one about bullying and friendship. It's a short story. Again, I don't know if it's a short story the son has told his dad and he's put it into the book, or whether it's a complete piece of fiction. I just don't know. Maybe if once someone sort of does some digging, they can let me know in the comments below. But in this section, we are looking at sort of like the child and his friendship with his best friend who lives close by. And they sort of like, they fall out a little bit because of a misunderstanding. And then there's a sort of incident, a sort of bullying sort of incident. And I don't know if it's written in a way in which everyone could connect to it, but I was like, oh my God, I've experienced absolutely everything in that. And you are able to sort of bring to words exactly what I couldn't really say for myself. It's really tricky to say unless you've read it, but I just thought that section was beautifully written and absolutely summed up the sort of confusion and frustration and sort of horror that can happen in those moments of sort of young friendship and sort of incidents that break us up, but also bring us back together. And I thought it was done so well. But the main section, the main story that really got me, and it's not necessarily that profound, but oh my God, did it hit me, it's the relationship between the writer and his dad. And there's this sort of, because of the power balance between them, they don't seem to really trust what the other one recommends. Like, the writer has obviously built his career that exists completely separate from anyone else in his family. So maybe he feels sort of like precious over the sort of like the world he's created. But it looks really heavily into sort of like when you recommend things to your family, but because they see you as a sort of child, they don't necessarily trust your recommendation, and vice versa. And yeah, the writer in this moment, he has this book and he has it for years, and his dad every time he calls says, have you read it yet? And he was always saying, no, I haven't, I'll get round to it. And I'm not going to spoil things, but I just found it so beautifully human, and I could again relate to it very strongly. But there's nothing massively profound about it. It's just about a kind of recommendation, but it's about so much more than that. And the way it builds, and the relationship between the father and how he's passing it down to his son and the three of them, and the idea of teaching fishing but not being able to. Oh, I don't want to ruin it, but I just thought it was absolutely bloody beautiful. And that was without a doubt my favourite section. And yeah, what a treat. Also, just quickly, the section on football sadness very much replicates my own relationship with football throughout my life. There's just a lot of love on these pages, between a father to his son and a son to his father, and a grandson to grandfather as well. And yeah, I just found it all utterly unpredictable, and really enjoyed just kind of, that feeling of being like, I wonder what essay or where the next section's going to take us. And finally, I absolutely love the structure of this one. It starts off incredibly small, both in the bite-sized chunks of information we're getting within the first year of the child's life, but also as we go through the child slowly growing up. But then as the child starts getting older and older, we almost see the author expanding his horizons of fatherhood into his own relationship with his dad, and also to what it was like when he was a kid, and him reminiscing on him being younger. So we almost get this thing that starts off really small from like his own son, and it sort of keeps building and building and expanding in these essays and these poems and these short stories through his kind of absolute sort of existential crisis of understanding himself as a child, as he is now, his son and his dad all at the same time. And I thought structurally, it was great. What didn't I like? One thing, the voice in this novel can at times be a bit too pretentious even for me. And I love really arty, wanky stuff. And at times, I was a bit like, whew, you are living in a different world, mate. And perhaps that's a bit of a stupid thing for me to point out, because of course this book is going to be pretentious. It's about a writer reminiscing and musing philosophically about his life and the life of his son, and what fatherhood has done to him and how it has changed him. And I think if you're picking up this book, you're probably already into that anyway. However, and I do need to point this out because it really bugged me, and maybe it is completely intended to show how fatherhood can sort of humble someone who is a middle-class artist. Do you know what I mean? The world of being a father or a parent, how quickly you can get humbled from all your sort of like middle-classy wanky ways on how you want to raise your child and what you think is appropriate. But there is a section in this novel during COVID in which he talks about how they absolutely had to make a really great sacrifice, in which they had to allow their son, they had to make the decision, or it was a huge sacrifice they had to make, and they had to do it. They had no choice. They had to allow and I think their son was maybe 5, 6, 7 at that time, to watch the TV for the first time. I don't know what world, you haven't let your kid watch TV until they're 7. I mean, I'm all for managing screen time, of course, but there was something about, that's not a sacrifice. You're not making a huge sacrifice by allowing your child to watch the TV or to watch a film. I thought it made me feel sick, honestly made me feel physically sick, that someone that sort of up their own arse would feel like they were making a big, massive decision worthy of writing about, that they had to allow their child to watch the TV because they might be bored during COVID. I thought it was pathetic. And it was a massive shame because I loved this book. I loved it. But that one little moment, and I don't know if it's on purpose. I don't know if the writer is doing it to highlight how much of a dickhead he was being in that moment, or how much of an utter idiot he was in thinking that mattered. But if it was serious, ooh, do you know what I mean? So I'm a little bit like, but if it is intended, then I fell for it, because it made me feel physically sick that someone would consider that to be a sacrifice or worthy of writing about. And I was a bit like, just why are you not watching your kid watch TV? Manage it. But it's almost like cruelty. I don't know. That's just me. That's my personal politics. But as said, that is only a small thing, and actually, luckily for me, that moment happens quite early on, and even though it put a bad taste in my mouth, I was able to just carry on, and the second half of this book is so good. The second half of this book is so good that I completely forgot about it. So, yeah, but as said, overall, I thought this book was excellent to fantastic, so I'm going to give it 4.5 stars out of 5. I really connected with this one, and I'm not even a dad, so that's how good it is. I don't think this book is going to be for everyone. It's looking at the small and idiosyncratic things in a really profound way, and it is sort of quite wanky, and it's not really sort of shifting mountains in what it's trying to do or say. It's just a lovely little reflective collection of stories and essays that paint out this particular person's relationship with being a father and fatherhood and parenthood in general. And I just really connected with it. Children's Literature is released on the 24th of October. And if you do get a chance to read it, then please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. Also, before I go, I just want to say a big thank you because Fitzcarraldo sent me this book. They sent me this book, but only because Kieran from KD Books, I made a video, I can't remember, it was a while ago, in which I said I've emailed so many publishers, I've requested so many books on NetGalley, and all of them have responded. NetGalley even responded saying I didn't have any presents, which really got to me. And yeah, I emailed so many publishers and everyone had ignored me. And Kieran, because he's an absolute legend, and he really is the loveliest man, and he's got my back. He was like, yo, I'm going to get you a book sent from a publisher. I'm going to do this for you. So he emailed Fitzcarraldo in the most casual way. It was just like, yo, I got this guy. He's got a channel. It's good. Please send him a book. And they literally just went, yeah, sure. Okay. And they sent me this book. So I have to say a massive thanks to Fitzcarraldo for sending me this book, but also a massive thanks to Kieran for making it happen and getting my first sort of book sent to me from a major publisher. It is great. Right then, so time for my little sign off. I hope you are well and you're enjoying whatever you might be reading, and I will see you all on the next one.